Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello, we're here. We have many questions. We have a lot of questions. Like, it's what the show's kind of about, but even still, It's a lot. Like, even for a show about questions, we got a lot of questions, Ian, so...
And they all come from our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members.
Well, I guess we won't wait any longer. We've waited long enough. So here we go. Start us off with this question from Mr. Man Baby. If given the chance to cherry pick elements from all over the Sonic franchise to create a sort of unified universe, how would you go about it? What would you have to change in order for everything to be compatible?
Oh, if we're going that route, hard reboot. Like, just done. Everything else shelved, new direction, because I feel like if you're going to cherry pick like that and try to weave one narrative, you just need to start off with a singular vision, a clear direction, a 5, 10, 15-year plan. How are the various forms of media going to bolster and support this new vision? What are the contingencies for when things go off schedule? Because they will. You know, what is the unified visual language for it and all that? Maybe tie a bow on modern, let classic be classic because it's not a sliding time scale anyway. Let the movies run their course, and then the Flynnverse would be born. Dark and terrible and hated by all. And if we're doing this fantasy scenario, I'd like to try to get at least a little representation from each incarnation over the years. You know, a little bit of the Korokoro manga, a little bit of the French manga, nods to Archie and Sad AM and Adventures of and Underground, and clearly incorporate some of the IDW stuff, throw some of the UK folks a bone and bring in some of the Fleetway material, and find a place for each of it, have a clearly defined cosmology and solar system and where everything fits. And at the same time, not be beholden to anything that has come before. You know, if something makes more sense to be wholly revised, just ripped out by the roots and transplanted somewhere else and saying, now you're this, so be it. Because if you're getting hung up on what came before, then it's not the new idea. You're just recycling the old idea and getting hung up on it. So that's the very broad approach I would take the stuff that's cool, take the stuff I like, take a little bit of something for everyone to go, remember that. And then sand off the edges and make sure it all fits together in this new, of its own brand Sonic. Not modern with other elements, not updated classic, just its own new Sonic.
So like Archie reboot, but for the whole franchise. Post reboot,
not even
with other elements that you are able to use.
Like Archie reboot was, let's take Sega Sonic, modern Sonic, and apply some of the Archie concepts to it. This would be wholesale. There is no modern Sonic. There is no true Sonic. This is the new foundation.
I'm ready. Let's do it. Come on. What are we waiting for? Oh, right. There's many other problems.
It would be a disastrous day on Earth if I had that kind of authority. There would be a lot of people.
There would be a lot of...
That ain't gonna happen.
There would be a lot of gnashing of teeth on the internet. But that's nothing new.
At the very least, I would be supporting the YouTube essay economy.
Yes, especially since you have audio quotes.
Yeah.
Many audio quotes. Good luck digging through these monsters, folks. H-Bomber guy on essay on Ian Flynn. Oh no. Big oof dot wave. Here's a question from Morless. It's a beautiful Bumble day outside. The bumblebirds are singing. The bumbleflowers are blooming. On Bumble days like this, Bumblecasters like you should be answering this Bumble question. Do you want to have a Bumble bad time? Because if you take one more Bumble step, You are not going to Bumble like what Bumble happens next. Tangle falls into Undertale. What happens?
Oh, the Paragon route. That's not the official term. I'm mixing with Mass Effect, I know, but the good route.
The pacifist route?
Pacifist route. There we go. Yeah.
She tries to make friends with everybody?
Yeah, she's going to make friends with everybody. She's going to laugh at all of Sans' jokes. She's going to save the underworld. Home? God, it's been so long. What do they call it? New home. I've fallen behind on my Undertale lore. Almost called it Deltarune. Jeez, oh Pete. Point is, no, she's going to defeat Flowey. She's going to get the best possible end. Everyone's going to be happy and, live happily ever after. No. Tangle's the best thing to happen.
Besties Papyrus and Tangle. Terrifying.
Now you are blue. That's my attack. Oh my god, I'm blue now.
The Tangle and Metaton dance off.
Ratings go through the roof within the first 10 seconds. She's like, no, keep the fight going. I want to dance to this music more.
Breaking news: local lemur saves hell. Tangle Tangle looks in the mirror. Despite everything, you're still you. And then she's like, heck yeah! Starts dancing.
The biggest hurdle she has is actually wanting to leave Toriel's house and all the pie. Like, she's super comfy. Oh, yeah, this is great. She can hang out here for a while, but eventually she'll want to go home, and that will lead to the confrontation. But it'll take her longer to move on.
Yeah. Here's a question from Noni. Where the hell do the Zeddy get all their accessories from? Is there just a hot topic on Lost Hex?
Excuse me, it's Zot topic.
What?
Probably some like.
Wouldn't it be Zot Zopic?
No, that's silly. It's just the first word, the first letter of the first word.
I mean, they're the Zeddy. Of course, they're silly. They're Zilly. Please say it right.
There's Ziny, there's Zuni. They're all little Zuni. That doesn't really work, does it?
No, not really.
Anyway, I don't know. Maybe there's like some craftsman Zeddy that we haven't seen off in some little corner of Lost Text putting together apparel, hoping one day that they'll actually be compensated for their work, but instead they just get mugged.
Mm-hmm. It's Zor's favorite store. Maybe it's Zot topic because it's run by a Zeddy named Zot. Maybe that's it.
There we go.
Here's a question from Normal Person. Vanilla and Cream visit Kratos and Atreus. How well would they get along, and would they wind up on some quest with the duo?
Oh, they'd get along swimmingly.
Oh, yeah.
Atreus is a good boy.
Kratos might be slightly annoyed at first, but then he'd be like, yeah, all right.
I mean,
hello,
he doesn't like to
hello, daughter.
He doesn't like to entertain company all that much, but he just wants the quiet life, and Vanilla is certainly going to be civil and not overstay her welcome.
Mm-hmm.
So no, they'd get along fine. Vanilla might have a couple of tips on how to spruce up the little log cabin out in the middle of nowhere, cook up some lovely forest stew. It'd be great. You'd have a grand old time. And then you get Balder knocking on the door being a jerk, and Vanilla very pleasantly says, "You do not want this fight."
Oh, Vanilla is there. Okay, good.
Oh, she has to be.
Okay, good. Oh, Vanilla is there. Yeah, I mean, that was part of the question. God, I can read. I can read, I swear. I can't, even though I said it out loud, literally. I do like the idea of Kratos being like, "Buddy," instead of "boy." Here's a question from Quaggle Gaggle. Ian, a long time ago, you said your favorite story you worked on was Thicker Than Water, back when we first met Bunny's uncle, but so much time and other issues have passed, and we've all grown so much. Has that opinion stayed the same, or has anything since then taken its place? I'd love to hear your thoughts, since you're still fairly vocal about Champions.
I I don't remember saying it was like the singular favorite. Maybe I did. Maybe it was at the time. But there's a lot that I hold in higher esteem than others. I try to find something good about everything I have done while acknowledging where they may have come up short. But, some resonated more with others. And I don't know, Thicker Than Water just came together very nicely.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a solid story. So it is one of the better ones, yeah.
I mean, I'm still vocal about Champions, but that's just me.
Champions was fun. I wouldn't put it as like my all-time favorite, but it was fun. It came together well.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing I'm not you.
I mean, if I had to pick like one thing gunned to my head, it might be Worlds Collide.
I mean,
just because.
Yeah, I'm just speaking
only...
Sonic just specifically, yeah. But yeah, Worlds Collide was, yeah. I mean, you're right, but
just because how well that one came together and just what it was, that was a chance in a lifetime, and everything clicked. That's a rare gem.
Good times.
But that isn't to throw Thicker Than Water out the window. It was a solid story. It came together very nicely.
All right, here's this question from Sam Cybercat. In Tails Tube number 5, Tails says confidently that Fang is a Jerboa. So can we take this to mean that Fang really is a Jerboa, or is that still one of his aliases and the truth remains a mystery?
Yeah, he is officially cemented as a Jerboa now.
A Jerboa constrictor.
No.
He has been constricted to being a Jerboa.
I mean, technically you're right.
Here's one from Saturn Flicky. Have you thought about doing anything with the Flicky dimension from Sonic 3D or the subspace that the Japanese Triple Trouble manual says Fang lives in?
I actually ran into some friction with everything to do with Flicky Island when we did the Tails special, so I don't know. We don't actually really see the Flicky dimension itself. It's just kind of passingly referred to, so I don't know if there's much to return to. As for subspace in terms of Fang, that might have been gently taken off the table. I'm not 100% sure on that. Just getting what his name is and what he is nailed down took a surprising number of meetings. So, I don't know. That's kind of TBD, I think.
Alrighty. Here's a question from Scourge Time. As Scourge is having a blast on Mobius with Halloween, what about Halloween on Moebius? How will this go?
Did we settle on what anti-Halloween was?
Not on the show.
No, okay.
In the comic, I don't.
Not in the comic. I know, but I feel like we riffed on this a bit, and I don't remember what we said.
Maybe.
I'm very shaky on my Bumble canon.
I'm being told that. I'm not. This is a joke, but would anti-Halloween be stealing candy from babies? I mean,
which is something they would totally do.
It's fine by Shadow, I know that, but
if Halloween typically is groups of masquerading individuals touring from home to home, demanding candy or delivering trickery, I guess anti-Halloween would be the roving bands either dishing out treats or dishing out tricks. You don't know which you're going to get, and you're trying to avoid confrontation by disguising yourself. The trick-or-treaters themselves are not dressed up as anything.
Maybe. You're trying to get out of giving people candy? I like it.
You're just hiding behind your door and you pray to God that the things that you hear hitting your door are like fun-sized treats and not eggs.
Oh, no. Terrible.
You do an inventory in the morning and it's like, well, I got a full Snickers, but my tree is now covered in toilet paper. Evens out.
Sure. Here is a question from Solar Stain. Rouge, Tangle, Whisper, Surge, and Vanilla are vampires for the day. How do they handle it?
Rouge? I mean, she's already got so many of the trappings of it. Maybe she just kind of lords over it for the day. Really does the whole Mistress of the Night thing at the club, and just one of the patrons doesn't make it home the next day. Oh well.
Delicious.
Tangle's just happy she doesn't have to sleep at night anymore. and just goes flinging all around in the moonlight. Then she remembers the daylight thing burns, and that's a bit of a problem, but she'll be fine. She'll find her way back home in time. Whisper leans into the whole, oh, this is my curse. And she's really confused if she bites someone, will they turn into a vampire or a werewolf?
The answer is yes.
Werepire.
Vamp wolf? Vamwolf.
I think Vamp Wolf is something else entirely. Anyway, she basically locks herself in her room and is the tortured soul. And don't come near me. I would just destroy everything I touch. Yada, yada, yada. Surge is going to bite as many people as she can.
Well, yeah, but what if she were a vampire?
And Vanilla, she already is one. So, day in the life.
Oh, really? Ah, interesting. The things we learn on the BumbleKast. Yeah. The new lore established right here.
Oh, yeah. Vaguely Victorian era dress, impossibly ageless and, refined. Child has mystical powers. Totally a vampire.
Well, I mean, we've never seen her teeth.
Mm-hmm. Although it's more like the Benincula vampire thing where she only drains the color out of vegetables.
Oh. Well, I mean, still, I guess that's pretty impressive. All right. And before we take a break, we got this one from Sonic Padge. I must admit, outside of some fire F&F tracks, that's Friday Night Funkin', I'm not the biggest fan of Sonic.exe. The idea of a bloody-eyed Sonic with unbrushed teeth gorily myrtleizing his friends and enemy doesn't sit right with me. But there are some general concepts from the creepypasta that I'd be curious to see you tackle. Number one, what would Sonic's friends and enemies do if, quote-unquote, Sonic was suddenly unexplainably violent to everyone? Two, how could Sonic beat a malicious writer, like who exists outside of the comic? This may require some out-of-the-panel thinking.
Number one, right there with you. Not my cup of tea. I avoid fan content in general, but that one was a real easy pass. As for what would they do if Sonic just went full on jerk mode, I think there would be an initial period of trying to rationalize it, trying to talk to him, trying to figure out, what's going on. Why has this been such a polar shift? But if it's just like flip the switch, evil mode, whatever, then there would come a time where it's like, okay, no, we need to stop him and figure out the rest later. We've tried being gentle, and now Tails is just the singular. So we need to act. And then you get like fun stuff where they're teaming up with Eggman, and Eggman's giving the heroes various forms of egg tech to counter Sonic, and you get the inevitable Shadow having lost all respect for the blue hedgehog, all out fight there. Maybe Silver tosses him into orbit. I don't know. Good old-fashioned hero versus hero fight.
I was going to say, bring, hello, Blaze and Silver, get over here. We have a problem. We need the OP crew, get over here. It's no use indeed, Sonic.
Now, how does a fictional character overcome the one controlling the narrative? Unless you have a writer that isn't particularly savvy of what they're doing, they don't. Because the writer themselves is one step ahead. They are actively crafting the narrative that the character is experiencing. So within the context of the character's mind, they think that they're railing against fate when really they're just playing into it.
Yeah, it would have to be like Duck Amuck, where it's just a big joke. But yeah,
there's always that last resort way to end it, where the writer is always in the position to say the end, and then what are you gonna do, Mr. Needlemouse? Nothing, because there is nothing left.
Yeah, that's why copypastas aren't really all that scary, because I mean, you can just stop reading them.
Unless you go out one order of magnitude further and the fictional character is able to escape the bounds of their narrative, causing the writer to question what their own context is, if somebody else is writing their narrative, who is that higher power writer, and why have they taken an interest in my story? Stop backseat writing it. But I guess if the writer is part of someone else's narrative, then the writing that they are writing is also part of the grander story. And now you're really falling down the rabbit hole.
Oh no, Ian, what have you done? This is getting way too, we're at way too many levels. This is getting way too deep.
Then we'll take a quick break. Let's come back to Earth, and we'll be back with more BumbleKast. We have an ad sponsored by patron Dominic the Raccoon. Hello, listeners. Are you interested in platformer characters experimenting with narratives? How about varied combat systems? Or perhaps want to see more of the red guy that Sonic goes to the Olympics with? Then let me introduce you to Mario RPG Central, a fan-made Discord server. Dedicated to the surprising amount of Mario-themed RPGs released over the years, this community bolsters discussion channels, has custom emotes, and enjoys occasional events. With a moderation team that seeks to maintain a pleasant atmosphere, it's a chance to make new friends as well. So please consider joining the server or follow them at Mario RPG Central on Twitter with the links in the episode description below.
We're back, and here's a question from Spoiler 1001. Was that grabber arm that Tails' plane had in Sonic Adventure only designed to move Sonic out of the way of transformations, or did it have other intended uses?
I like to think it is exclusively the Sonic relocation arm.
Move Sonic.
Tails is sitting there building out, drawing up his blueprints going, and then this arm comes out and it grabs Sonic and he's like, whoa, and he gets moved out of the way and the plane transforms. It's really cool. And while he's doodling all this, he forgets about putting a landing gear in.
Well, I mean, landing. Why do you need to land? I'm going to fly forever. Landing is silly.
Although I kind of wish we would see that arm come back and have him like do a flying grapple fight like at an Outlaw Star. That'd be neat. Fly me closer. I want to punch him.
Yes. Yeah. Tails needs to figure out how to design a VTOL system, vertical takeoff and landing. He really needs to figure that out. As not for himself, for his planes. Really needs to
sitting there after long nights, multiple mugs of coffee, just tossed aside. How do I do this? How do I apply it? I can do it all the time. What is the secret?
Well, Tails eventually will realize he forgot to put in a cup holder.
That's what the mechanical arm's for. It just holds onto your cup as you fly away.
Maybe that's it, yeah. That's the cup holder. Whoops. Here's a question from Steph Cube. Aren't you worried about the fact that Sega is starting to reference the practice of tarot cards with Amy's quote-unquote fortune cards? Look at it from an economic perspective. Reading the future of any kind goes against the most popular religions in the world, such as Christianity, Catholicism, Islam, Mormons, and others. Even though these cards are not actually true tarot cards, parents may fear their children will be curious about the real cards by seeing Amy's and then prohibit their children from reading or consuming Sonic content to avoid it, resulting in decreased sales of the products. I personally feel they should stop referencing them and take a more neutral stance so they don't risk losing fans and lower sales.
Number one, that's why they're fortune cards. There's that degree of separation. They are a fantasy interpretation of what is already a fantasy thing anyway. It is a product within the franchise that can go in any direction it wants. Number two, Harry Potter, a franchise that is direct and blatant and revels in its pagan mysticism. Didn't exactly get hurt in sales, now did it?
No.
So I think our Kirkland brand occultism in Sonic isn't really going to ding the bottom line.
I mean, if this franchise can survive referencing other gods, summoning several gods from other dimensions, destroying the world, things of that nature, there's very distinct religious influences and undertones in certain parts of the Sonic franchise. And that's not changed anything. That's certainly not hurt the brand.
I mean, it is always good to be conscious and respectful of people's beliefs and try not to directly challenge or confront or demean them. At the same time, the folks who would hold on to their dollar because of a passing reference to tarot are the same folks who will find a reason to take exception. So I don't foresee the fortune cards being an issue.
Nah.
And it's not my decision to make anyway, so.
Here's a question from Scurvy Pirate Dog. Starline's isekai adventures continue. This time he ends up in the home of Mama Robotnik as she hires him to be a babysitter. Who's he going to babysit? Why is it Dr. Babble and Dr. Don't from Sonic Prime? How does it go?
See, I think the even funnier option is that she makes him babysit grown man Robotnik.
He needs one, to be fair.
He gets more infantile as the episode goes on. You know. Start of the episode, I don't need a babysitter. I'm a grown man, mother. And then by the end of the episode, I want my binky.
Okay, so this is pretty much just this is just Adventures of Robotnik.
Yeah. You have Starline looking at Grounder. So are those drills functional or are they just for show? Put it right to my temple, please. But no, that wasn't the question. We're doing Dr. Babble and Dr. Don't. Which one was Don't? Is that the preteen?
Didn't you work on this show? The teen one, yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, aside from Dr. Babble, I barely could keep track of the difference between them. The idea of Mama Robotnik siring Dr. Babble and Dr. Don't is terrifying. Just yeesh.
Scurvy, look what you've done.
I don't know. If Starline were smart, like real world applicable smart, which we know he isn't, he'd leave Don't alone because Don't's just gonna plug into whatever device he has and take care of himself for the rest of the day. Babble would be the one you have to worry about because Babble's going to, disassemble the house to build a death ray just for funsies. But Starline, being Starline, he's going to want to ensure that Don't engages with his environment and actually tests that young intellect so that he can grow up to be such a great person like Dr. Eggman. Not Mr. Doctor, regular Doctor. Why does he have Mr. before Doctor? Doctor's a doctorate. Supplants the other title. How does that make any sense? Anyway.
And then he gets hit by a boss.
Yeah, he makes things more difficult than it needs to be. Don't and Babble team up, and Starline's isekai adventures continue on.
Yes. Mr. Doctor the Monarch. Thanks, Chad. Here's one from Supersonic Fan. What if Rough and Tumble got super forms?
Massive collateral damage.
Mm-hmm.
Not to anyone directly, though. It would be the two of them testing to see how invulnerable they are by just beating each other up and just smashing through various things and laughing about it and throwing buildings at each other and whatnot until the super form wears off. They would not actually do anything directly villainous or constructive. They would just cause a big, big problem.
Yeah. And then eventually they'd run out of time, so then it would just be over. Would they hurt themselves? Well, no, because they'd be invulnerable, but they might hurt themselves coming out of the super state. Like they'll be in the middle of doing something and then boom, run out of time.
Whoever throws the last punch right before the power goes out will be the last one standing.
51 seconds later, they fall out of the sky. Oh boy. There you go. Here's one from the ID card. From my admittedly limited knowledge of Sonic lore, the Chaos Emeralds have the ability to turn thoughts into power. But such a vague description of the usage of the Chaos Emeralds tells me that anyone can simply pull it off. Tails, Amy, and Knuckles are all OG characters from the classic era that deserve to have super transformations, But it may be difficult to just say, well, they can do it now, if the parameters for using the Chaos Emeralds are loosely defined and implies that anyone can do it, if they have the right mindset, and any character could have done it, and any character could have done this at any time. The character I believe would pull this off the easiest, though, would be Knuckles, since he can sense Emerald energy, Master Chaos, Soul, etc. So my question for you is, how would you make a super transformation still feel like it's something special to perform, but pulled off by characters like Tails, Amy, and Knuckles, who have had no history of being able to do so outside of gameplay gimmicks?
At this juncture, I feel like it would need to be a story beat to highlight Tails, Amy, Knuckles, or whoever gets the merit badge of transformation, to think back on their inability, express their desire to have this ability, and then show what they do to acquire that ability, whether it's through personal training or if it is a dire situation and the miraculous occurs because they need it to. There's a few ways to approach it, but since it has been so established that it's just the Hedgehog trio, Blaze aside, Blaze is a special case. We're talking Super. Just the Hedge Boys, I feel like you would need to make it a moment, not just all of a sudden, boop, Super. It needs to be something. Or, alternatively, give them their own form. It's not Super, but it's comparable. That potentially opens the door for a worse problem where everybody gets their own special flavor of Super, but I don't know. Cross that bridge when we come to it. Not even something we're really concerned about at the moment.
If everyone is Super, no one is.
Yeah. Like, what it is exactly that defines who can go Super and why others cannot is not defined. So, ID card is not missing anything. It's just kind of the rules of the universe, which are very, very, very poorly defined, publicly at least.
Here is a question from the internet person. So recently on TalesTube, they mentioned Knuckles being tricked 3 times when he's actually been tricked 4 times. Sonic Advance 2 had him tricked by Eggman. Is that game not canon, or was that a mistake?
Sonic's line is, I think it was something like 3 times, but who's counting? He didn't sit there and itemize every single instance. It was more the joke line highlighting that Knuckles didn't fall for it once. It is a joke line. It is not there to be scrutinized. And I'm not calling out the internet person because I got this question from multiple people. Sonic is saying it's happened more than once, at least 3 times. That's the joke.
Sonic just struggles to remember things. It all blurs together for him at this point. I mean, at some point, yeah, how can he tell the difference? Sonic can't count. What do you want from him? Math is not his strong suit. Here's one from the last Archie Sonic stand. Forces is adapted into Archie canon. What torture would Archie Eggman do to Sonic, and how many failed robotizations were attempted? What state do freedom fighters find Sonic in?
It's kind of hard to say what would we have done or tried to get away with, and what's kind of Flanderization of what Archie was in those days. But I don't know, maybe various death traps for Sonic to get out of with no possibility of escape. Maybe the speed scenario, and he gets hooked up with a diode. If he drops under 60 miles per hour, he gets zapped. But if he goes over 60 miles per hour, he gets zapped.
That's a 90s. That's a very 90s reference.
Well, one must reference the classics.
Yes. Pay respect to your elders.
And then, I don't know, Sonic would come out of there just as he does in Forces, super confident, unflappable. Of course, he's fine. What are you talking about? He doesn't have any problems. Maybe spend a very special episode where, highlight that he's covering for the emotional damage, the mental trauma, and really just needs to sit down and talk to somebody and to admit that he has a problem, because that's the hardest step.
Truly the hog who can't hedge. Truly.
And then we have to dance around it because even though it got approved in the pitch stage, we can't actually show Sonic having emotional damage. So it all have to be implied.
Emotional damage.
And then we get raked across the coals for attempting to address an actual real world issue, but not being able to do it with any kind of sincerity or justice. And all I can do is just kind of quietly nod in the background. But I'm not actually openly confirming it. Therefore, I'm ignoring fans and looking down on them. And have I been at this too long, Kyle, to be able to lay out the plot synopsis of the real world that accurately?
I don't know, but what I do know is I will send you to Jesus. It's a joke, by the way. That's a reference.
Countdown to somebody in the comments saying, "That's a nice straw man you constructed there, Ian." Well, it is Halloween. Spooky scarecrows. It's part of the year.
Strawman on the internet? No. Here's one from the Might of Gabura. Modern Sonic's canon is all-inclusive. It includes other canons and worlds like Movie Sonic.
Obviously, it does not.
No, clearly not. Here's one from Twilord. It's been a bit of a hiatus since you expanded your wonderful Herald the Deathspawn Lord. Time for a time skip. Sonic has retired and Shadow decided to take a page from mythological immortals and take a long nap. How do Tails and Harold do as the big heroes?
Why is this a thing? When did this become a thing? Why? How is this?
It became a thing because Twilord made it a thing, and now he's perpetuating it. Because that's just what Twilord do, you know? He perpetuates things. We love you, Twilord.
So many other things could be perpetuated, and they would be bad. So we'll do this. Tails and Harold escape from White Castle.
Escape from White Castle.
Dude, where's my tornado? But if we're doing a time skip, then Harold is no longer just a measly death leech. He's gone through his metamorphosis. He's turned into an actual unit within the Black Arms. So we'll make him a dark oak, because having a giant, lumbering, incomprehensible good boy to Tails is hilarious to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Tornado 2 in its X-Wing formation is flying along. Tails is in the cockpit, and Harold is barely hunkered on that back wing. How is this thing even remotely aerodynamic? Because Tails is a genius. That's why.
Yep.
And that mechanical arm is there to play rock, paper, scissors to keep Harold entertained during long flights.
It's White Castle Zone. That's what they're escaping from. White Castle Zone.
And Tails is coming to his own. He's got the confidence of Sonic, but the reservations and thoughtfulness of himself. He's got the physical attributes. He's got the technical attributes. He's a one-man army. He's just really impressive. And for those rare moments where he can't outthink, outmaneuver, or outbuild the problem, there's Harold. And Harold will smash it and solve the problem.
Easy enough. That fixes it.
Then I imagine you have like this whole C-3PO R2-D2 thing where Tails will have this long-winded and wittily constructed question, and he goes, "And Harold, what do you think?" Yeah, my thoughts exactly.
Mm-hmm. I'm with him. Here's a question from Village. Do you think Shadow needs moveset reevaluation? Seems like his powers are kind of being given to the rest of the cast. While he may have proficiency, Sonic IMO is about characters visually having abilities that stand out. Superstars has emerald powers, and now Sonic, and I assume Speedster's able to move so fast time slowed. He does it in Prime and in the films. The Spears and Frontiers, or something old that now comes into question, Silver's ability to teleport. I feel a reevaluation is needed. What he can do, what can he do unique to himself, and how to promote him. In Smash, when he's summoned, he does Chaos Control. That's his thing. And if so many other heroes can just do that now, what's the point, really? Why not Tails? This may be answered next time he's playable, but it's something I've noticed. I hope he can provide perspective. If he does get reevaluated, ever, I think the Black Arms are fertile ground for a lot of creativity.
I think you're overgeneralizing or conflating stuff that isn't there or not intended. Like, doing slow-mo segments in like Prime or the movies is just to show the speed and is ripping off the Quicksilver segment out of X-Men, let's be honest. Chaos Control is like full-on time stop.
Yeah.
That's not a bit of camera trickery to convey a sense of speed from the speedster's perspective. Chaos Control is straight up time stop. Nobody else can do that except for maybe Sonic with the Chaos Emerald, but that's like special case scenario. Silver having a teleport and Shadow having his Chaos Snap, they are fairly similar, granted, and that's two characters. I don't feel like that's really spreading it out too much. There are no electro spear, like nobody has a chaos spear in Frontiers. Sonic has a bunch of flashy attacks and stuff, but I'm 99% sure that's all confined to the cyberspace power. That's just a Starfall Islands thing. If this, if he has those powers in whatever the next game is, well, I'm going to sound like an idiot, but that's going to be years down the line at best. I can't predict that far, but it's not the same thing. So I don't really think he needs to have a new overhauled moveset because nobody really does what he does. If anything, his kit needs to be simplified and better defined because he does so much. He kind of covers too many bases.
Yeah, that's just Shadow for you. It's too much.
And Tails absolutely does not need any new powers. He's already kitted out to high heaven and back.
If he needs any new powers, he can just make something that'll give him the power. That's fine. Here's one from Windstar Osprey. Something about Silver and Whisper's attempt to unmask Duo as Mimic bugs me. Why didn't they just force Duo to take off his mittens to check for suction cups? From what we've seen so far, they're the one things Mimic seems to be unable to remove when he shapeshifts, which is why he needs to wear them in the first place. So they aren't just a visual to help readers and don't really exist. Given how long Whisper has worked with him, it's highly unlikely that she doesn't know about this tell, so I get the feeling that Whisper is going to realize this in a later issue and facepalm hard.
I had some more of a question for Evan Stanley since she wrote that story.
Yeah. All right. And our last question is from U2 Rabbitnik. I was curious as to whether we'd see a proper map of Sonic's Earth and some clarification on certain bizarre locales. For example, how does the Coruscant-esque Grand Metropolis exist in the same setting as Y2K San Francisco-esque Central City or Missouri?
Well, how's that any different than we've got cities like Seoul and cities like Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Someplace like Tokyo and then someplace like rural Alabama. There can be extremes in technological level depending on where you are in the world. That's not that big of a leap. And in a fantasy series like Sonic, you can have an even wider gap because it's make-believe. As for a hard map, that is kind of under discussion. A concern being, number one, we've seen lots of shots of Earth from a distance, and none of them match. So when you settle on one map, how do you apply that retroactively, or do you even try to? And how defined do you want that to be? Because as you go to new regions and find new islands and invent new stages, how do you wedge them in when the map that you made 10 years ago doesn't necessarily match what the game demands now? So I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for a super defined official map anytime soon.
All right. That's all we have for this episode.
Thank you so much to everyone from patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members for supporting this program with your donations and your questions. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
This BumbleKast is sponsored in part thanks to viewers like you.
Well, how does someplace like Seoul exist in the same world as like Cincinnati?
Seoul? You mean Seoul?
Let's do that again so I don't sound like an idiot. I could have sworn there was another bit of... Okay.
No. Well, I mean, not in the least anglicized version of it.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Pick up in... Shush!
The soul mistake.
Pick up in 3, 2, 1. Like 10 hours?
That's why you're tired. To be fair.
I didn't think I was that tired either, but...
Well, I mean, what's your sleep been like lately? So, yeah, I knew it.
That's my secret, Kyle. I never sleep.
Yeah, I can tell. Yeah, just like me. Actually, the last few days have been weird. Like, I'm getting a lot of sleep.
Good?
I don't know if it's good or bad. I don't know if it's a sign of something bad or what. Ah! No question, only answer.
You ask all your questions, and unsatisfied with the answer. Where does it lead you? Back to me.
Does it put a smile on your face, Ian?
did I ever tell you how I got these subs? There was this other YouTuber. He was way more popular than I was, and he gave us a small shout out that one time, and the viewership doubled, tripled even, and now they're everywhere. So, thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. All right, I'm being told to make you stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
I shouldn't.
You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
A while ago, we bought a cheap IKEA couch, and it immediately started to degrade, which has been a murder on both our backs. So we went out and got like a quality one, but they're like, there's none in stock. We'll send you one in about 10 weeks. It's like, all right, well,
shit.
Here's our schedule for the next 10 weeks as we get other stuff prepped. And then they called when we were recording last, actually.
Oh.
And said, nope, it's here. We'll give it to you next Saturday. Okay, well, now we have to figure out everything else, and we're trying to, diminish what we have so we have room to put things away. But some things have to move first before others, and it's a lot of, to get to point A, you have to do point B, but to do point B, you have to do point C, and to do point C, you have to do point A.
It's like playing Tetris with your house.
Yeah. It's just nothing will disappear.
No. No, it just keeps... if anything, it just keeps growing. Hey.
Although there's a comic shop nearby that said they'd probably buy off a bunch of my old books, and I've got like 2 long boxes that I haven't touched in like a decade. It's like, yeah, I can get rid of those.
Uh-oh. I don't know. Are they Sonic related?
No. This is all other collections that I have. I'm holding on to the Sonic and Mega Man and Sabrina stuff for now.
I mean, I figured you probably would, but just in case. Also,
yeah,
people are surprised you have non-Sonic comics. Like, guys, he does other things. He like enjoys other things. It's like his life
one
is
box
not
is
Sonic.
almost entirely the Ultimate book line. Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimates for the first few years of those respective runs.
Yeah.
Box weighs like 50 freaking pounds.
Jesus.
And I enjoyed the books, I did, but I don't read them.
You're not good to go?
Just holding on to them. And it's like, if I really want to revisit them, buy a trade. Get a digital download,
Yeah.
And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff. The Halo miniseries I got suckered into buying because I thought that might be worth reading. Some of the Dark Tower comics I thought they might be good. Ha!
Well, that's a shame. Do you hate when that happens, when you buy something and it sucks?
Yeah. Here, we're going to take something that is such a visceral and ethereal book and put it into a visual medium so that we can actually realize some of these grand things that have been described. Oh no, we're going to go super minimalistic, heavily inked, interpretive.
Oh, of course.
Fuck you.
I mean,
you've forgotten the face of your father. No pleasant day or pleasant night.
I mean, another Ian swear.
Nothing quite pisses me off like a bad adaptation or a misinterpretation of the material.
Boy. Well, put another one in the swear jar. I don't know what we're putting in it, but it ain't money, because that money's mine.
I mean, ultimately, it's first world problems, but still.
I know.